Well, we're back at it again, and I promise you tonight we're gonna have some fun because I was just talking to my guy, Mr. Brandon Fairley, and I gotta ask him is Fairly or Fairlie, but I was just talking to him, and to be honest, this sounds like fun. So without any further ado, let me introduce my guy here and bring him on. So you introduce him,
How's it?
Brandon.
What's going on, Derek?
Well, it's the same old song.
Yeah, let me just get center with the camera. There we go.
Well, first and foremost, let everybody know who Brandon Fairley is, man.
My name's Brandon Fairlie, and I go as Agent Orange, and I'm Omar Moreno's Jocks agent.
Um, do you have any other jockeys that
Currently,
you handle the books for?
currently I do not. I start last year was my first year, and I started with Omar Moreno, and he's a very talented jockey. And when I started, I was going through a transition in my life on and off the track. So I didn't feel like it was fair for me to accept any other jockey my first year and take that on my plate while representing both of them. I had a lot of change in my personal life. So I just came in last year and focused on one, and I think we did quite well.
Wow. Uh, what kind of changes does a young man like yourself have to go through, man? You seem like a pretty young guy, so tell me about these changes.
Well, you're always learning, and every time you got to start a new career or you got to start a new job, or sometimes you're doing jobs and you're unhappy with the job you're doing, you look for change, and then you look for change environment, and then at the end of the day, when you look for change within, that's when you really find change. And I was just doing a lot of jobs, odd jobs, working at the track. I was doing the feed truck for years while working and grooming in the mornings. And then I started as a vet assistant at the Toronto Equine Hospital that Daryl Bonder has. And it was great, but it wasn't me. It wasn't something I could excel in. And I love working with these animals because I love the racing aspect. I love watching the races. And that was more my song and dance is spending an
Well,
afternoon at the races or by the computer watching several tracks.
well, well, it's funny because there's a bunch of people who probably know you from Woodbine Racetrack and probably Fort Erie. But for guys who don't know you, who are tuning in and probably just seeing this young, handsome young man, let them know who you are in terms of how did you get involved with horse racing?
Um, I kind of never had a choice in the matter. My father was Scott Fairlie, and he was a trainer since the day I was born. He was actually living in the tack rooms, and I was probably conceived at the racetrack. And ever since that, I've been brought to the racetrack. Except for winters, 90% of my life has been spent at that backstretch Woodbine racetrack.
Oh, wow. And we were speaking briefly earlier, and you said that a lot of things have changed since you were a boy at the racetrack. You want to share some of that story with the audience to let them know some of the fun times that you had when you were back there?
Every day's been a fun day, pretty much. There hasn't been too many bad days. The bad days you can't remember when you look back, because overall, the racetrack, you have a lot of good days. My father had a huge staff, and he was leading trainer in 2003. And I was just becoming like a teenager at the time, so I was really hanging around the barn. My mom and dad were going through a divorce, and I was hanging out with my dad more, and he was bringing me to the racetrack. He wasn't paying for no babysitter, so he had jocks agents that they wanted the mount. My dad said, "Here's my son, take him to the draw. You got to look after him." I've had him, he wasn't trying to push me, but he was busy, right? So I was hanging around jocks agents. I was hanging around the barn. I was watching. They were running 4 or 5 a day. The grooms were really passionate back then. They still are passionate, and I was just hanging around them. And when the horses turn for home, I get an energy that, and it hasn't changed. It doesn't matter if you bet $2, if you're the groom of the horse, if you own the horse, if your friend owns the horse, you got something to cheer about. And when the horses come running down that stretch, it's an addiction. When it comes close and they're running, Anyone that's introduced to the racetrack, all they have to do is bet $2 on a horse, and that horse shows up to run. Because it's no fun when you bet $2 and the horse goes backwards. But when that horse has got a shot down the stretch, you're sucked in for life. Like, you are sucked in.
You know, we were talking earlier about the track and so forth. And tell me about the energy when it comes to, like, you're a young guy, and there's a bunch of young horsemen that are now involved in horse racing. How important is it for you to build a relationship with those guys and also partner with the older ones? You know.
I don't really look at age because when I was growing up, I had a lot of friends that were 40, 50, 60, 18, 20, because when you're at the racetrack, you become like an individual. You kind of become a man. Like, your friends aren't just your grade 2 class or your grade 3 class. Like, you end up having all these friends, and like, I've built these relationships with people over the years, and I have respect for every single person. I almost know every single person at the racetrack and what they do and what they've put in and what they've done in the past and where they're at now. And it's just fun to be involved and be able to make a living and keep the lights on in the house and just be involved in the community and get around and speaking, and the energy of maybe getting a live horse and then watching the horse run and then watching the horse win and then bringing in breakfasts in the morning. I love it.
Well, you know, this is you was telling me that this is your first year. I mean, sorry, last year was your first year, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. I started August. I started in the middle of the year. I had some setbacks, and it was kind of spur of the moment.
Wow. And I mean, just like placing that $2 for a horse to win, when you became that agent, and your horse goes out there with the jockey, and what's that feeling like? Like, do you have the same kind of rush?
It's an even bigger rush. I can't explain it. Like, I've owned a lot of horses with my dad and trained them, and the rush is still there. You're grooming, you're rushing them, but it's kind of a different energy. Like, like when it was my investment, if I lost, I could live with it, right? But I'm an empath, right? So I feel like a lot of not I feel like a lot of pressure, but when the horse is going in the gate, I really want those horses to do well. I really want to win for those connections. I know my jockey really wants to win, and like, it's a new excitement. It's really a new excitement because I've been doing other things in the business, but being an agent's completely different. I can't explain it until the only way people will know is if they do it. If they do it, they do it.
You know, I think an agent is an interesting piece to the puzzle of horse racing. So before I knew about agents and stuff like that, you know, I usually thought that the jockey somehow, you know, people just love the jockey or just got the jockey, but the agent plays a really important role too. What are you guys looking for when you're out there in the backstretch, man? I see you guys all the time. I don't know what you guys are looking for, but you're always there.
Me, I'm looking for opportunity. Like, I'm in a position where I really need to hustle for my jockey. We're looking to go and have a comeback year this year, and like, I really am just looking for opportunities. I'm looking for horses with potential. I'm looking for horses that might shake loose because a rider has engagements with 2 others and they might end up in the same race. I'm looking for trainers that are in distress because they just got spun by another agent, and hopefully I'm their cup of tea, and they're going to use my guy, and they use him in this start, and say the horse is even 10-1 this start, and Omar gives a good ride and it wins or it comes second. There's always something to build off. As soon as you get your foot in the door, a trainer starts giving you mounts and you start being there at the right time, things start clicking.
Now tell me about the some of the bigger barns at the track. And I know for young guys like yourself, you know, you've been around for a while because you were pretty much conceived at the track, you said. But
yeah,
but
Fort Erie. I was conceived at Fort Erie. That's the for sure. In Fort Erie, everyone says the racetrack, right? And supposedly, yeah.
How important is it for you to at least put your 1 foot in the doors of some of those bigger tracks, those big barns? Sorry, because you know it's tough sometimes. Some agents have those barns locked down.
Well, the thing is, some of those trainers do have those things locked down, but they're gonna be locked down with other barns, and they might get tied up with other engagements, two mounts in the same race, and all you really need to do is be at the right place at the right time. Like a jockey could get on a horse in the morning and work for a big barn, and get back and say to their agent, I don't really like that horse. That horse wasn't much because the horse might have worked alone or worked out the gate for the first time. And the jockey says, hey, I think we should go with so and so's horse. And now that trainer, 3 days before the draw, is left with no agent. And that big barn, they might even call another jockey and he has engagements. And they call another jockey, he has engagements. And then I come in the barn, strutting in the barn, and I got Omar and we're ready to win. He's going to give a good ride. And you kind of just have to be at the right place at the right time. And you got to be reliable. You got to have, like, I have a rider that I believe is capable of winning on any mount. And I know he's going to show up in the morning. When a trainer needs him, he will be there. And that's a good feeling.
Well, Omar, he has some fans out west. I think he started out there, as I was told, but he got lots of fans out there. Uh, what is Omar like to work with? I know you probably don't want to speak for him, but what is he like to work with?
He's been a pleasure. I owe him a lot. He gave me an opportunity. He gave me an opportunity with patience. He took a risk on me in a crisis, right? Like, I was a risk. I was a new agent. I was young. I've been outspoken in the past. I've ruffled some feathers. I've said some things because, like, as a young man, I've tried different careers my whole life. And shortly before I was an agent, I thought I was going to be a comedian. So I might have said a couple of things back there, but I mean well, and he took a risk, and I really went to work for him. So he's been great, and I've been a fan of him. Even before I was his agent, I was a fan of him.
Well, something you touched on something that I found was interesting, that you ruffle a few feathers, and from time to time that will happen for you as an agent because your business is pretty slick. So you're always gonna rub people the wrong way here and there, even though you may not mean to. How are you gonna handle that, Brandon?
I'm just going to keep moving forward. I'm just going to try my best every time. I might not get things right every single time, but if I get things right the majority of the time, I'm doing my job really well.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. You got to do what you got to do. One of the older agents told me one time that being an agent, it meant that lying became second nature. What do you say to those kind of statements?
I believe there's situations where you got to be a liar. I haven't been the best liar, but I've been honest, and most trainers will say that. And I believe what he says because you have to do what's best for your rider at the end of the day. So, like, if you have one of the top three guys, you're going to have everybody calling you, not just the trainer. Sometimes you're going to have owners overstepping the trainer and calling the agent and saying, hey, are you going to ride this horse? And you agree to ride this horse. You think it's going to be the favorite for the 40, but then the bigger barn comes in and is going to drop a horse from maiden allowance for the 40. It's going to be the favorite, and you ride for that barn. So then they get this news like a couple of days before the draw, and then they got to break it to the other trainer. And I don't blame them for doing it. As somebody that's been spun before, you don't look at it that way. But when you're representing the jockey, you got to do what's best for the jockey. You have to be honest. You got to not leave trainers high and dry. And it's not easy. Honestly, I thought being an agent was going to be easy, but it's a challenge, and I'm up for it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I think that's good to hear. What's the energy like at Woodbine Racetrack? I mean, currently you guys on ice, but say for instance, last year, what was the energy like for you and your team of you and Omar? What was the feeling like?
As a team, we were on the same page. We were very appreciative of each other. We grew a lot as an agent and jockey combo because Omar was riding both tracks. He was riding at Fort Erie and he was riding at Woodbine. So I had to manage both books. And as soon as I got his book, I ended up going down to Fort Erie to represent him. I know a lot of people do it over their phone, but I really wanted to show face. And winning at both tracks is really important to me. And I ended up actually, when I went down there the first week, I rented a hotel room at the Comfort Inn, and I didn't get much sleep. I was I got a lot of energy. I was excited, so I wasn't. I spent the money on the room, and I was getting up out of bed. I was going to the bathroom. I was pacing because I have a real high energy. So the next week, I was saying, I'm not going to rent the hotel room. That's a waste of money because I need my bed to sleep. I need to get comfortable. So if I'm not going to sleep, I didn't really want to pay the hotel fee and go stay there and pace around. And so I said, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to drive home the Monday night and drive back the Tuesday morning. But then I looked at the traffic, and the traffic was horrible. There was an accident on the QEW, and it was like 2.5 hours to go home. So I was just like, you know what? I'm going to sleep outside the race office in my car. And then Omar found out about it. He's like, "You're going to sleep outside in your car?" I said, "Yeah, well, we got to get the mounts. Things might shake loose. Some of these jockeys might not come down for their mounts. Some of these 40 trainers booked a jockey for 3 mounts, and they look at the program and they go, oh, I don't want to drive down." And I wanted to make sure that I could catch some of those winners and chase down some of those trainers and say, so and so isn't coming down. Can Omar pick up the mount and be a late change? And I got excited. Omar said, "Don't do that." He's like, "Just come stay in my room." And I said, "Okay, we'll see." So I ended up spending the whole year on a cot. Not
Wow.
like the whole year, but every Monday I would go, or sometimes I would drive home. But we went out for dinners. We drove down together. We talked about past. We talked about mistakes we've both made as men. We talked about the future, and we ate together. We did everything together last year, and we grew as people. And it was a real learning experience for me. But I loved going down to Fort Erie, and I just loved the energy of being around him. We had a lot of ups and downs, but we navigated them
I
professionally.
think, you know what, I think to do what you do, you need quite a bit of energy, and so far you're showing that. So you're going to go pretty far with this agent business. You know what I mean? Last year walking around Woodbine Racetrack, I see the grind that you guys put in. Some agents are pretty slick. Everybody got the game going on. Everybody got their own little game. They all fly with what they do, and do you just flash that smile, Brandon, and just walk right in and charm the hell out of those trainers? Tell me a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes, man.
um, you got to face disappointment in this sport. Like, even if you're a top trainer, even if you're a top owner, even if you're a top jockey, this sport, if you're winning at 20%, you're doing a great job, right? So you gotta get used to losing 80%, right? So you're gonna get a lot of disappointment. You're gonna help some trainers. You're gonna do this. You're gonna have some expectations, right? And you shouldn't have expectations as an agent. You're gonna hope to catch a mount, catch a break, and catch this. And a trainer wants to name you, but then they call their owner and they go, "I got to ride so and so, but you got to be the backup and you got to do this." So you face a lot of disappointment, but if you just keep going through it, it makes it all worth it. Like when they win, it's such a crazy feeling.
Nice, nice. Now, is there a next level for agent? Like, can you, or do you have a region restrictions being an agent? You can't walk into another track, right? And do the same thing. I guess you need, I don't know, you need connections there, or does it carry over, or only for Woodbine Fort Erie?
Well, the game's changed, like with also younger agents. Well, even when I just started, you can only have two journeyman jockeys in a state. So like Ontario, right? So Fort Erie and Woodbine, you can have two, and you can have one apprentice. But there's a young agent called Jose Santos, and he started
Mhm.
representing jockeys in different states. And he's doing quite well. He's got like maybe 9 jockeys, and a lot of them are leading jockeys where they are, and he does most of it on the phone, and he does a real good job. So he's kind of changing the game, and I'm sure it took a lot of difficulties to build to where he's at. and nothing happens overnight. So I'm just hoping to slowly build and work with what I got and see where it goes.
Quite interesting. I always found that the agent business was really interesting. I know the trainers got a tough job, and the jockeys, they work really hard. A lot of jockeys. Only the established ones, they don't have. They already put their work in, so they don't have to put down amount of work like the young ones do. But the agent, the amount of work that you guys do behind the scenes, I don't mean in terms of saddling a horse or whatever, but just getting your jock to get those mounts. That's a pretty slick operation because you got to go into territory that you probably never been in before. Has there ever been a time where you said, "Holy crap, what am I doing?"
Oh, the first day, and many other days, because like that's imposter syndrome, right? Like anytime you start a new job, you're going to be a little unsure, right? It doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you went to school. But when I first became an agent, I thought I was going to be welcomed with open arms, right? Like I might have had a little bit of a delusion because I was looking at the trainer, owner, groom aspect. But as an agent, when I came out and I got Omar's book, some of the other agents, not all the agents, because some of them were great help and some of them were supportive. But I felt like I was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer because a couple of them were laughing and calling me names and acting like I wasn't going to get my share of wins. And I faced a lot of uncomfortable situations, and I had a lot of personal things come my way this year, on and off the track. But when you're a race tracker and everything is public business, right? When you're at the racetrack, if you're dating somebody at the racetrack, you break up with somebody at the racetrack, it's everybody's business. So you kind of gotta but just put your head down and get to work, right? And as an agent, I had to face a lot of uncomfortable conversations, and there was a lot of mornings. There was a couple mornings where I was like, oh, maybe I should handle what's going on at home first, and then maybe be an agent next year. But then I was thinking, I'm like, I made a commitment to Omar Moreno. He put his faith in me, and I got to make sure I do a good job. And I talked to Omar. I said, hey, listen, I need to take a day off. I'm going through this. And he said, just take your time. And I remember I was driving in the gates at both track, and I had to take a deep breath and just say, you know what? You got to separate things going on back there and just come in and do a good job. And I felt like the mornings that were uncomfortable, and when I pushed through and just went through, good things always came. Opportunities came, and a lot of trainers were, if they couldn't give you a winner, they would give you advice or they'd give you positive feedback. And a lot of that drives you. And but there was definitely mornings where you get this uncomfortable feeling, right? And it's like sales. It's like if you were to go sell vacuums at doors, and everybody's got a vacuum, so you got to be like, this vacuum's better. Your vacuum, let me see your vacuum. Do you have a vacuum? Do you have this suction 5000? So it's kind of like a door-to-door salesman, and everyone's already got it because everyone's got a jockey. And there's people that want to help me, but they've had a certain jockey help them for 6 months prior, and they got to give them an opportunity. So it's like you can't just really walk into opportunities and just think it's just going to work out for you. You kind of just got to be there when people need you, help them, and just take it day by day.
So are you excited for 2023? I mean, you've got your feet wet. You're broken in the door a little bit, and now this is 2023 coming around, and you're a little bit more experienced in terms of how you do your business. Do you have any good horses lined up for your jockey? Are you guys currently working? Do you ever stop working, or do you ever take a break?
It's actually a crazy situation because I spent my whole years at the racetrack, right? And I was always looking at the agents and saying, they're not working. What the hell are they doing, right? Like that was just like me being a worker, right? And I was always working in the mornings for my father, grooming, running the horses, and then I'd go work the feed truck in the afternoons. And that's the hardest job on the racetrack, is slugging that feed, 4,000 bags, 50 pounds a bag, and that crew is the hardest working crew on the backstretch. And I was like a part of it. And I would always be looking at the agents and being like, they're not working. Like, what are they doing? But it's like a mental fatigue. It's like you're always thinking, and you're always thinking all these scenarios out, and you're thinking about this. So it's like a mental exhaustion. And there's this agent, this really good agent at Woodbine, and his name's Mike Luter, and he always used to talk about, you got to take a step back, and you got to think positive, and you got to do this. And when I was like younger and I was having my bad days, I'm like, yeah, think positive. I'm going to think positive, but it actually works. And as an agent, you really got to just, take a step back. And when you take a step back, you get the perfect view of everything. And you can't take decisions to heart. You got to make whatever you think is the best decision and just move forward. And but you're always working. Like, you could be having dinner with your girlfriend, you could be at the movies, you could be with family, and you get a phone call at 6 p.m. and it's a trainer you've been wanting to hear from. So you just get up, you perk up, you run up, you grab your phone, you answer, and sometimes they got good news from you, or sometimes they just want to talk, right? And either way, you always have to have your phone turned on. If your phone's turned off or your phone's dead, you're basically dead.
So you know what I'm getting from this? I'm realizing it's the relationship that you have to kind of harness and let it grow. Marinate that relationship with these guys, because you never know where it's going to go. 2023, we're going to be introduced to the King's Plate at Woodbine Racetrack. Is that something that you guys think about? Being the one, like the connections that are behind, and perhaps get that mount and perhaps get that winning ride. Like, you ever think about that stuff? I think most people, like jockeys and agents and trainers, they all want to be the first, or they want to be marked in history. Is that something that you think about?
It's all I think about. Like, the King's Plate's a big win, and every win. A maiden 5,000 is a big win. I just love winning. If you could win the King's Plate or the Queen's Plate, it's probably got to be the greatest feeling you can. I remember my father had a filly named the Milwaukee Appeal that won the Woodbine Oaks.
Yeah, I remember that one.
She ran in I could be wrong, but 2009 Queen's Plate, when the Queen came, or it was the 150th anniversary, and she got in a little bit of traffic down the stretch, and she ended up getting beat half a length. And I remember my heart was just beating out of my chest. And it's like a high that you got to chase. And it's like, I'm telling you, like, even the small wins, like, it's like you see the gamblers at Woodbine. You go on the second floor and everyone's screaming at a TV. It's like, it's a feeling that you can't shake. And it's like, I'm gonna be looking out for King's Plate mounts, and you never know. Some jockeys pick other horses last minute. This horse is shifting in. You never know what could happen, which horses come loose. And I have goals to win the King's Plate as an agent in the future. Doesn't have to be next year. It could be 2050, but it's definitely in my sights.
Hey, look, man, you know what? I'll tell you something. There's guys that been around for like 30, 40 years, and they win their first major race, after so many years. So, I mean, this is your second year as an agent, and you still got plenty of time. You were telling me earlier about the time you guys went down and you saw what was the horse that won the Triple Crown?
It was American Pharoah winning the Triple Crown. The first time in 37 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. And then Justify happened to win the next year or the year after.
Know, right?
And it wasn't as special anymore, but it was still special to me.
And we were talking, and you were saying that you stayed in Harlem. I was saying, like, in Harlem, I've been in New York so many times, I've never stayed in Harlem. You want to tell me a little bit, share that experience with the audience.
So I'm still young, but I was younger, and I just seen him win the Preakness, and I was just like, you know what? Like, this horse still had so much left in the tank, and I really think this is the horse that's going to win the Triple Crown. And I love New York, so I kind of just said to my friend, let me see how much tickets are. And I looked up, and I seen there was tickets available. So I was like, oh, I'm going to buy a ticket. And then 6 of my friends that had nothing to do with horse racing were like, you're going down for the Triple Crown. Like they were kind of getting into it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to go to New York for 4 days. So we ended up looking, and like you're trying to be frugal and you're trying to look for places to stay. And I wasn't really doing the logistics of like, how am I going to get to the track, or how am I going to get to Times Square? I just looked up at Harlem, and I seen the Airbnb was cheap and split 7 ways, and it was nice. I was just like, let's go. And then when we got there, Harlem was a real hustle. Like Harlem was my favorite part of New York, the restaurants, the street people. It didn't matter if you were down and out. The homeless still had their nice flavored suits, hustling on the corners from the 80s. And like those guys could be good jocks agents. Those guys they were
They
on
know
their
how to talk.
hustle dusk till dawn in the middle of the night. And I was making friends with people on the streets, and I was getting, go to this place or go to this bodega and try this breakfast or try that. And like the food was amazing. It was cheap. And us 7 guys never slept those 4 nights. We
Oh, I
never
can only
slept. I'm
imagine,
telling
bud.
you, I
Oh.
would be surprised if someone slept 10 minutes. Like that's a 4 night. And it wasn't like there was drugs or anything involved. It was just, when you go to New York, there's just so much to do. There's just bars, racetrack, this, Times Square, shopping, Fifth Avenue. It was a great experience just going down there and seeing the way Americans do it on the big day. Because the way Americans do it, like
Mhm.
there was people from every state there. And they like, and when you pull up in the parking lot and you got to park so far out and then walk in and people are tailgating and people are saying America, USA, and they're really patriotic. And there's Spanish people, there's black people, there's Asian people, and you just really see all these people brought together by a sport. And horse racing people are unique, and sometimes you can go out in the real world and people don't know anything about the racetrack world. So when you get to travel to one of these racing events, it's all like-minded people. It's all people that are on the same wavelength as you. It doesn't matter if they're owners or if they're women that just love the sport or women that just love to dress up. It's like, but I really identify with the gamblers. Not that I'm like a crazy gambler or whatnot, but like my day at the races is betting with the people that are either winning or losing. I like betting with the excitement.
Well, you're a young guy, so you got that adrenaline, and you guys, got so much energy when it comes to horse racing. So I can see what you mean when you say that. And I'm to be honest, and that's part of the sport, and that's the part of it that draws a lot of people. And people love to see if they put $2. I remember one. It was like 8 years ago, and I introduced my wife to the track. We went for an evening, and I placed $5 on a horse, and the horse was at 19-1, and it was at dead last at the back, Gulfstream Park. It was wet, and turning for home, she just turned her head and said, "Let's go." I said, "Not yet, baby, not yet." And the horse won the race. So I'm just saying that's the part that a lot of people identify with. That being said, have you? Oh no, I was going to ask you what it's going to be like, you know, with a disappointment of a jockey, but I realize Omar is the only jockey so far, so you don't have a disappointment yet. You don't want that.
No, um, disappointment's going to come in this game. It's just how you're going to handle it. Doesn't matter if you're a groom, you know, trainers have lost their best horses, um, people that are in this game have to get used to losing, whether it's sentimental, whether it's money. Disappointment, the better you get at handling disappointment is how you're going to succeed in this business. There's a lot of trainers that are going to probably have the best year of their life this year, and they're coming off their worst year. It's just this sport, you have to just keep pushing forward. You have to keep pushing forward. um, the stats are something to always look at, right? So like you see a trainer, they're batting at 20, 25%, they're having a great year, they're doing good. And it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of dedication, it takes people management, it takes horse management. These trainers deserve a lot of credit, right? That get put up these big numbers. But you also can't just look at a trainer that's got low numbers for 1 year, because so many things behind the scenes can go wrong. You could have 6 horses and your best horse gets hurt, or your other horse gets sick the day of the race, and then the right race doesn't come back, and your percentage isn't that good. And I feel like a lot of trainers, a lot of jockeys, they get based on their percentage, right? And I think you should just get based on what you're capable of, and your horsemanship, right? Because I've seen a lot of trainers with top horses, and then they just get stuck with a crop of the wrong horses, and I don't feel like it's a reflection of what they're capable of.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because last year when I did do and check the stats, I realized there were a lot of trainers, a lot of jockeys, and all kinds of people that were making more money than they usually made in the past. And I was curious to know from you, have you seen that? And does that encourage you to see that there's a lot of people who are at the bottom level, and now they're making a little bit more money?
I feel like most of the people here have started from the bottom level. Like as a jockey, sometimes it's different, right? Because like when you're an apprentice, you get a 10-pound weight advantage for your first couple starts, and then 5 pounds for a year and a half, 2 years, right? And if you have the right agent and you get in the right barns and you start looking good and you start flourishing as a rider young, you kind of start up here, right? You're getting mounts, and then things can change over time, new riders, new flavors of the mount. But I feel like most trainers have had to, start with bad horses, or have good horses get hurt, or make some wrong decisions in order to learn what to do. Like even my father, when he first started training, he never won races the first year, but that's how he learned, right? And he had to make a living. Like he had bills to pay, and he had a lot to learn, and he learned, and he paid attention. And like just even watching him learn and go, and always be paying attention to every horse on the grounds and every race on the grounds, you learn a lot. But I seen my dad growing up start with nothing and get a lot, and I've seen lots of trainers do it, and I'm rooting for every trainer there, even if I'm not friends with them. Like I'm actually, like, if I'm not in the race, I'm cheering for a lot of people, and it's just happy. And I love seeing the trainers that need the money. Like when they need that money and that horse comes through for them, I have a real soft spot for watching the races, and seeing the Cinderella stories, or seeing that trainer that's, a lot of bad luck, and then that one they own and bred. And I've seen them leading the horse to the track every day, and I walk through the barn and they got the halter cleaned and they got their shed row raked up, and then that 1-2-year-old runs, and it runs real well for them, and it wins. Whether I'm on the horse or not, I'm just really happy to see people succeed back there. Even the grooms, like they put in a lot of work, and seeing some of them dance to the winner's circle and the smiles on the faces, what it means to some of these people. And
Yeah, definitely. I
I've
agree with
seen,
you, man. I
I've
agree with
just
you.
seen, yeah, I've just seen too many people come from the bottom to the top, and the top to the bottom. The deck just keeps getting shuffled, and I just love seeing other people get new opportunities, and some trainers get new owners, new horses, and you never know what's going to happen.
Now,
That's why you got to just show respect to everyone.
were you paying that close attention as a kid to what your dad was doing, and what was happening around you at the track, and in terms of horse racing? Did you really take it that serious? Was there ever a dream of anything else besides, I don't know, being a kid and just growing up? And did you ever think you were doing something else outside the track, or was this a direction you knew that you was going to end up doing something with horse racing?
Well, growing up, I'm a third generation horseman and a fourth generation gambler, because my grandfather was an exercise rider, and he did construction in the afternoons, and that's what drew my dad into it. But fourth generation gambler, because my great grandfather was betting these circuits when it was like Dufferin Park and Greenwood. But growing up, I always was just intrigued by the races. Like even if my mom didn't want me to be there, I wanted to be there. I loved even if I didn't understand it, I loved the walk to the winner's circle. I loved just going down there, getting the picture taken, petting the horse. But as I grew older, I couldn't see myself doing anything else besides horse racing. But the truth is, I wanted to be an owner. Because I seen a lot of the struggles my dad went through. Because being a horse trainer, It ain't easy. It ain't easy if you're at the top. It ain't easy when you're at the bottom, because when you're at the bottom, you got bills to pay. You got to make magic happen. You got things happen. And even if you're a trainer with 60 horses and everyone sees you in the winner's circle winning this stake, winning that, it's not all flowers and berries, because you got owners to answer to. If you have 60 horses, you could have had a horse get hurt in the morning that meant a lot to you. They all mean a lot to you. And then you go there, you win a race, but people don't see what's behind the scenes. You got 60 owners to talk to after the phone. You had 7 run that day, you win 2. You got to talk to owners of the 5 other horses that lost. Like, being a trainer is one of the hardest jobs in the world, and being a jockey, everyone's going to criticize you. You got so much criticism to face, whether you win or lose. Everyone's got something to say. They have $2, they bet on the horse. They might have bet a $1 pick 3, and they got something to say to you. You were on a horse that wasn't going to win regardless. But growing up watching my dad train, I thought I'd be an owner. I always was like, you know what, I'm going to get a business, and I'm going to buy a champion, and I'm going to buy this horse at the sale, and my dad's going to train it, and I'm going to win. And then as I got older and I realized, you're not just going to be an owner. You got to get money. Like, you got to make, you think you're just going to be an owner, so I started realizing, I got to learn from the ground up. I started grooming. I started owning horses with my dad at a young age. And as the game started changing, there used to be a really good Ontario sired program. And I never had dreams. Then I started wanting to be a trainer, but I never wanted to be some trainer of 20 horses and have to deal with this and deal with all the staff and deal with this. I always wanted to breed Ontario breds, own them myself, and kind of groom them and train them myself, a small operation, and just make a living, which a lot of people used to do back in the day. They were able to get by with 5 horses, and I always thought that was the path for me. And then as I got older, I started thinking about being an agent, but the right opportunity never arose. And there's a staff shortage at Woodbine, and I was a part of the family operation, so I was never going to just up and leave my father's operation and leave him high and dry, short staffed, and this and that. So the opportunity never arose, but I always thought I was going to be in this business, owner, breeder, trainer, jocks agent. I always seen a spot for me in this business. It didn't matter. I was never going to leave. And I've tried to leave before. I've tried.
Wow. Is there more money in horse racing right now? I mean, with all the, you see some tracks like Arlington is no longer, and across the U.S. there's some tracks that they closed down. We got 2, 3 in Ontario. We got Ajax, which is they do a sprint. Fort Erie and Woodbine. Is there more money in horse racing right now, or what?
There's money in horse racing. More money is not. It's not. The game's changed. It's like we see these purses. We see them 80,000, 100,000, $1 million, right? Like, but you have to win those, or else there's no money. Like, the cost of keeping a horse is 35,000 a year. That was 2 years ago. Like, it's probably 45, right? So you got to win like 3 races on the lower end just to break even. So is there more money? No, because back in the day there was more racing days and there was more opportunity. Like, so when I say the purses were cut, people go, what are you talking about? We're still running for 80,000. But if you lose a day of racing, it used to be like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you lose Thursday, you're losing the maiden 20, the maiden 15, the non-winners of 4 for 40. You're losing races. So then there's less opportunity to win. So there's less opportunity to find a spot for your horse to win. So there's less money in the game. But there's still money to be made. It's just the room for error isn't there anymore.
Now, right now, as we spoke about, we're on ice in Toronto until racing starts back and then training starts back. And is Omar, does he stay in town, or does he ride across the border, or is he, what happens?
He stays in town. He's a father. I actually wanted to go to the States and maybe try a little something in the States with him this year, but he's a father, and he wants to be there for his son, because having a family and being in this business is tough because you're at the racetrack, you know, on the weekends, you're running, you're 7 days a week. Like he wants to make up for time that to spend with his kid. Like when I talk to Omar, he loves his kid and he wants to be a good father. Like Omar, he grew up tough, right? Omar, you know, he grew up, he was born in El Salvador, a war-torn country, and he came here and he survived the foster care system. He did this, and his family means something to him. And you know, having his son around and getting to spend time over the winter with his son means a lot. And I wasn't gonna push going to the States, but I'm having a little FOMO because I used to go to Penn National in Pennsylvania with my dad,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
we'd go for the 1 or 2 months, and you know he'd win races, and it was freezing cold, and the work was there, but like it's a real racing town in Penn National. Like I love being there. It's casino and horse racing, and I'm a poker player, so it was like the best of both worlds. I got to play poker, I got to work with the horses, and I needed the break, but after the 2 weeks that I was off, I started stall walking, and I'm actually like getting some FOMO watching Steve Cherkov. Steve Cherkov, like I know they're not talking about it a lot, but he's knocking them dead there, and it's not easy. I think he's leading trainer there. He just won one at Laurel, and Penn National is like my second home, and Laurel's my favorite racetrack. And you know, I kind of wish I was down there working in some form. Like it's
You like
just
the excitement.
I love the excitement. I love the horses, and I love having things to do in the morning. Like I wake up early, and if I don't have something to do, I have a little bit of anxiety, so I got to go for a run. Like it's -30. I've been snowshoeing with my girlfriend and running around the block, but like I love waking up, having my coffee in the barn, working with the horses. I don't care if I'm halt walking, grooming, agent. I don't care if I'm bringing the bucket. Like I just love being around the track. And if we don't have if I'm working at the track as a groom and we don't have anything running and I need a day off, I go home, I shower, and I'm at the front side. I'm sitting there with a program in my hands, you know, betting and losing my money that I work so hard for.
You know what? I like, you know, I'll tell you something. On a summer morning, usually on the weekend, I just love to get up very early in the morning, go down to Tim Hortons, get a cup of coffee, and just kind of sit and just go to the track and just kind of like watch the guys go around. And I like that kind of atmosphere. For you, like, I'm pretty sure you're up a lot earlier than I am, because I'm passing through maybe 7 o'clock in the morning. You up way more earlier than that, right?
Yeah, I love the sunsets at not the sunsets, the sunrises at Woodbine. Like you have the best coffee there in the morning, and yeah, when I was working as a groom and helping my dad, I would get there at 4:30 in the morning. Now I try to get there for 6:30. Right, I
Mhm.
don't want to be bothering trainers too early in the morning when they're finding out what they got to do, or like what's in their way, because a trainer has new obstacles every morning. You know, like a staff doesn't show up, a rider doesn't show up. This the last thing they want to do is hear from me when they're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
So
It's such a buzz for me, watching you guys operate. I told you earlier that I see some of the guys look really slick. You can tell the agents who handling the big name jockeys who making a lot of money, because they all dress fancy and slick. And you look pretty slick yourself. So I mean, what's happening with Omar? Is he packing it? He
is he
packing the stack.
is he packing what?
Is he packing the stack?
The stack? Not yet. That's coming. The stack's coming. But you know, like he's having a few years, you know, where he was a leading apprentice in North America, and he won the Eclipse. And there's only been 5 jockeys out of Woodbine to do that, and he was one of them. And he took the world by storm, and he had a bunch of success on the track. You know, he was young, he got married, he had a kid, and you know, he had the world by the balls, right? And you know, he had a lot of setbacks, and he had a lot of things going off the track that were bothering him. and things that he wasn't making the right decisions, and then he was bringing that energy to the racetrack, and he ended up taking a step back
Mhm.
and retiring for a year. And during that year is when he realized, like how much he loves the sport, and he needs to make a comeback. And he made the comeback, and he came back after COVID. And, like a lot of these jockeys already have relationships with the trainers. And his comeback wasn't orchestrated right, because once you start riding losers from the start, you kind of get
Yeah.
like grouped up. Like you
Mhm.
want to get off to a good start in this sport, especially when you're a jockey. And I feel like he's really capable. I think he's one of the best stick riders. He's a really aggressive rider. He's got a great left hand. He's 114 pounds natural, so he's not in the box losing weight. He has a full dinner, sits pretty on a horse. And I think we're gonna have our comeback year this year. I kind of got him. I kind of got him late at the end of the year, and I worked with what I got, and we kept the lights on. But we're gonna be there early this year, and we're gonna try and grind out our wins and really get the ball rolling, because this is a sport of momentum. And when you're winning, things are going smooth, and when you're not, you got to figure it out. You got to take a step back.
Now, I see you guys had a few in the Barb Minstrel barn. What's that relationship like? And what do you guys plan for next year? Because you were on a couple of good horses that she had, and they were pretty young horses too. So I can only imagine that you may retain the mount for some of those horses.
Well, I'm definitely going to try. Barb's someone I've always had a lot of respect for. She's a great trainer. She's a world-class trainer. She's trained a lot of champions over the years, and she has a stable, and she tries to have quality horses. And she does a great job with all of them. And she keeps a great staff. She has one of the best staffs and one of the most organized staffs, and great place to send a horse. And I think that I was at the right place at the right time. She had this nice 2-year-old named British Artillery. And
That's the one.
oh, that was a special win for me, because that was my first win at Woodbine. And it was a big field. She was entering on the 2-year-olds on the turf. And 14 horse field. You get lots of jockeys have commitments to this horse, that horse. And that one kind of just fell into my lap. And Barb put us on, and we were 20-1. And that was Queen's Plate Day. And I
Yeah, I was
remember,
going to say that was Queen's Plate. That I remember very clearly.
and it was the only mount Omar had for the day. And I remember I was up the night before, and I was hearing the thunder, and I was hearing the lightning, and I was seeing the rain come, and I was looking at the forecast, and I'm like, holy, this rain, it's going to come off the turf, because there's a lot of stake races, so they take off these things. But it was calling for sun during the day, but I was starting to get nervous about the weather, right? And then when it rained, and I woke up in the morning and the sun was out, I realized, wait a minute, we're in the 12 hole. We're in the 12 hole, going 6 furlongs. This is a tough post to win from, right? Like, it's not my spot to make a call. Barb knows her horses in and out, and she does her homework. Like, when you talk about somebody, that's somebody you should talk to, because she knows every horse in the barn. She knows every horse they're running against. She knows what happened in the last race. Like, she's very sharp. She's a very sharp horsewoman, and she knows her horse racing. And anyways, I was like, in my head, like, I'm thinking of scenarios. I'm like, like, it rained, the turf might be a little bit soft, like 12 hole, like, it's going to be hard to get over. In my head, I didn't say none of that. I'm like, maybe the play is to take back. But anyways, that horse broke like a rocket, and Omar got the horse over, which isn't always easy from that post. And turning for home, the horse started moving, right? Like, you don't want to take away from a horse, right? Because if you're on their mouth and you got a hold of them, slowing them down, it's just tiring them out. But the horse started to pull on top of the stretch. I'm like, I hope this horse has something left. And the horse drew away, and it was just like a real special moment. When I seen Omar smile in the winner's circle, I got tears in my eyes. It was the best plate day for me, and it's a memory I'm gonna have for my life. And And then things kind of just worked out. Barb had some other horses, and they fell into my lap. Omar rode them. They were all, on the odds boards. They were like 20 to 1, right? Some of them, right? And he gave them good trips, and we had a lot of luck at the beginning, right? And things, Omar was available. He's willing to help anybody in the mornings, and we had a lot of good wins, me and Barb, and she makes a lot of decisions what's best for her connections, and we'll see what the future brings. I would love to ride for her barn any day, because she's a class act and she's professional, and we'll see what the future holds.
Yeah, definitely. Do you ever play those horses that at 21 to 1 and those type of horses as an agent?
Oh, this year I wish I was betting, because Omar brought home the most long shots. That's when I started calling him Big Money Moreno. Like, I think he has the longest odds winner. This was before I had his book. But in the spring, he brought home 77 stone for Paul Lepine at like 70 to 1.
Yeah.
And it won the allowance race, and it set the track record. And he gave the horse a perfect trip. And then when I had him, most of the horses he won on were 20 to 1, 18 to 1, 23 to 1, and I wish I was betting, right? But as an agent, you only make money when the horse wins. So there's some weeks, same with trainers. There's weeks, you ain't getting a paycheck, right? So I've had some savings, but if I was to go and be gambling on horses when the money ain't coming in, it'd be very irresponsible. And I have a life, I have a girlfriend. So I didn't bet on these horses, but if I was betting on Omar this year, I would have made money, because he almost broke his other odds winner, because he set the record this year, not the record overall, but he had a 70 to 1 shot win. And then he almost won on Dave Cody's at 100 to 1. He got beat a neck on She's So Cold from the 14 hole.
Wow.
And it might have
Man.
been the only 14 hole all year.
Hey, look, I know you touched on the importance of winning and the importance of getting good rides and stuff like that. But how important is it to have that girlfriend that you mentioned about?
It's very important. It's
Why
a
is it
privilege.
important, Brandon?
Because when you get a partner, not just a girlfriend, it's special. You got someone that you got to respect, but they respect you, and she's my main support. So it's easier to come in the mornings when you got someone at home making sure everything's okay, making sure, and she works harder than me. Like, she's a strong woman, so it's like, it ain't easy. Like, if you're single and you're going home and you're lonely, it's not easy. Or if you're in the wrong relationship and you have a bad day at the track and you go home and there's more fighting, it's not easy. So I'm one of the fortunate people that just having her around, it keeps me grounded. So
Brandon, I was gonna say, it keeps you balanced, man. When you're out there single, you do crazy stuff, and you do things you probably won't think you probably would do. So having a balance, it kind of keeps you grounded a little bit. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a balance I wish everyone could have. I don't want to sound like a lover boy, but you just gotta, if you find a partner, whether it's a business partner, a girlfriend, just make sure you're a good partner. That's what you got to do. That's what I've had to learn to do. And you have failed relationships in the past. You make mistakes, but I met her at a mature time, and she's helped me get through a lot of things. And it's nice to have her at home. That's my big mare. When a trainer says they got that. The big mare, that's my big mare. I got, that's my steak horse right there. That's the,
Hey,
make sure the halter's clean.
Brandon, you're a charmer, my friend. You know how how to charm your way inside those barns. You know how to charm your way to get good horses, and I tell you, you know how to charm your way to keep a good lady. So keep doing what you do, my friend. I look forward to seeing you guys once it starts to get a little bit warmer and training starts back. I'll come back there and I'll probably meet a bunch of you guys. So in the
we could
meantime,
even have a coffee. We can
we should have a coffee together.
Yeah, and have a laugh in the backstretch kitchen and have a good laugh. But yeah, when we get off this call, I just want to let all the trainers know we're going to be there hungry. We're going to be there when the gates open. I'm going to be the first agent on the grounds. I'm going to have my phone on. And if anyone needs help, me and Omar are going to be there early. And we're going to be there early for the fort. And we're going to be there and we're going to try and get wins at Fort Erie, Woodbine. I love my people at Fort Erie. I love Woodbine. And hopefully we're firing on all cylinders at both tracks.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to seeing Omar ride this year. You said he took a break. What year was that when he took that break?
I think 2020 or the end of 2019. I don't know exactly because I was in my own world at the time too. And, but I always looked at him as like a very talented rider. And I didn't realize, he wasn't, because he was always bringing in big winners in the stake races, every race. He always, but I don't 2020, I think. And I think it might have came back 2021.
Well, you know what? It's good to see him back. And I know that he's a talented rider, so I'm definitely keeping my eyes on his mounts and see what he's doing. When I run into you this year, we'll have that coffee, and you know what? And we'll talk about some races. Maybe we'll talk about pick 3 or pick
maybe
4
we'll bet
or
one.
something like that.
Yeah, maybe we'll bet one together. It doesn't, even something cheap, just something to keep the action going. I love,
Yeah.
I love betting the horses and handicapping the races, and it's just it's the greatest hobby as long as you have control.
That's right. Hey, look, man, Brandon, this was a lot of fun talking to you. Maybe we should do this another time.
Yeah, part 2 or something.
All right, my friend. So again, thanks for joining me here tonight. It was a pleasure. Please stay in contact, Brandon, and let's do this again when Omar win that big stakes race, man.
Yeah, that's what we're focusing on this year. This big stake race. That's what I want to win this year.
Any particular race you want to win? Which one in particular? Which stakes race are you referring to? King's Plate?
Any race. The King's Plate's going to have the biggest crowd. It's going to have the most energy. It's going to have the biggest party. It's going to be the biggest day. I think it's a great race. It's Canadian-bred 3-year-olds, but I think there's, like you win one of those Breeders' Cup winning your ins, but a lot of ship-in jockeys win that. We got a lot of European horses, American horses. They ship in, they win those races, but Woodbine's got some big races, and you get to win like an EP Taylor, or you get to win those. Like any graded stake is a little more prestigious to me. The Queen's Plate, King's Plate's always got a spot in my heart, but racing's racing, and you want to beat the best horses in the best race. And
Omar won on the Queen's Plate day last year, so let's keep that momentum going, and he can win on the King's Plate day this year. Okay.
Yeah, no, that'll be great.
All right, my man. Thanks for doing this with me. Until next time, okay?
All right, have a good one, Derek.
All right, thank you so much.
All right.
That was my guy, Brandon Fairlie. Pretty good guy, really slick with the tongue. And you know what? Him and Omar, they're making a really good team. And watch out for those guys. Trust me, watch out for that guy. All right. Thanks for joining me this time. Until next time,